The views and opinions expressed on this podcast is solely of the creator and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, or opinions of the listener. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. Chat GPTs and AI technologies were not used or harmed in the creation of this podcast. This podcast is 100% human-made by your host, me. Hi, hello, my name is Melanie, and this is Under the Moon Paranormal Presents Ohio Legends, the podcast about the Buckeye State and the strange and mysterious things that happen in and around Ohio, such as haunted places, cryptids, interesting people. You know, everything in Ohio has some kind of story behind it, and I'm here to give you the truth and the facts behind all of it. So if you like the podcast, make sure you check out my YouTube channel, which is all about 100% documentation of the paranormal, and that is Under the Moon Paranormal on YouTube. All right, so this month's full moon is the buck moon. So spiritually, the buck moon is about determination, progress, and purposeful growth. It is a time to reflect on how far you come and to add into focusing energy on reaching your next step. Like the young deer whose antlers are nearly full grown by midsummer, this full moon invites you to rise into your power and move forward with intention. So the buck moon occurs on July 10th at 4:37 p.m. and it is the sign of Capricorn. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, the planet of structure, discipline, and long-term vision. While summer often encourages rest and play, this moon's energy reminds you to stay aligned with your goals, and it's the perfect moment to recommit to whatever matters and make tangible steps towards manifesting your goals. So you need to ask yourself during this full moon, where are you ready to step into leadership into your own life? What foundations need strengthening so your power can reach its full potential? So energy of the buck moon is determination, growth, intensity, heat, energy, culmination, focus, and self-confidence. So that is your full moon report. So last month I brought to you an interesting story of a little legend in South Salem in Ohio, which is in Ross County, about Mary Mortar. So I wanted to touch into these two particular ladies because Mary Mortar always said that she was, or she didn't say, someone started the legend of her being Queen Victoria's half-sister. We debunked that. Sorry, South Salem shit kickers. I know we thought we were special. I know we're still special in our own way, okay? Because we hang out in creepy cemeteries. Maybe Mary Mortar was definitely the inspiration of why I became such a spooky person in my adult life. Who knows? So this month I want to touch on Native Americans, indigenous people. I mean, they do have what we think tribes, royalty, the head of a tribe, chief, king. I don't think so because there's no kings in America and there never will be. So I want to touch about the story of Pocahontas real quick because this is kind of where we're going with this, okay? So the real story of Pocahontas involves her life as a Powhatan woman born around 1596 near Jamestown, Virginia. While she is known for fostering peace between the English colonists by Native Americans by befriending the settlers and eventually marrying John Rolfe, an English tobacco planter, Pocahontas' life was remarked by tragedy, including her own kidnapping and forced assimilation into English culture, which contrasts sharply with romanticized versions of her story, like the Walt Disney version. It's totally romanticized. She was like 9, 10, maybe 11 years old at the most when she was taken from her family. Okay, so English culture, which contrasts sharply with the romanticized version of her story. Ultimately, she died in England in 1617, and her legacy remains as a complex chapter in early American history, such as when the white men came here and pillaged these tribes, took their children, took their wives, made their daughters become like colonized white women, gave them Christian names, and told them they couldn't speak in their native tongues, okay? So pause and think about that for a second. So we're here to talk about Moonglow. That's her Native American name, is Moonglow. There's a lot of stipulation, hearsay, because her lineage of where she actually came from, her birth parents, it remains a mystery. And I think that's only for the fact that they did away with the history of the native people when they came here and just took over. So Moonglow Susanna Hamilton, formerly Hurst. The Hurst last name is spelled a couple of different ways. The way you're searching it for her maiden name, it's usually popping up as Hurst, but it could also be spelled like Herse, like hearse, like a driving hearse. So her maiden name, supposedly her mother unknown and her father is unknown, but I'm going to walk you through this. Just bear with me on this because this is very important. While growing up, my husband, his father has a picture of his mother's, I guess you would say it was his parents, his mom and his real dad, which this is what started this whole thing. My daughter was searching genealogy and grandparents, immigrants from my husband's mother's side. From his dad's side, he has a picture, my father-in-law does, of his parents at a Native American reservation. Yeah, you heard me right. Both of his grandparents and his parents lived on a Native American reservation. And supposedly, his mom is a descendant of Susanna Hamilton Moonglow. Interesting, right? So she had a lot of kids. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. She had 10 on record, but there are some of, I'm going to add her genealogy link where I found all my information, where she had 2 previous sons in a first marriage, different last names. So yeah, that's very interesting. But who are her parents? Who is Moonglow's parents? Now, Moonglow, they don't even have a birthday for her. There is a span in her life where there's no record of her in any censuses or anything. They're saying that she, around the 1770s is when she was born, is what they're saying. And they know when she passed away. It's 1846 when she passed away. Okay, so biography, wife of a Revolutionary hero named Benjamin Hamilton. Susanna was half Cherokee Indian, unproven. They can't prove this. In the town of Moon, Kentucky, that is named after her. Okay, so her husband died 5 years after she passed away. Burial in Moon Cemetery, Morgan County, Kentucky, behind the old Moon post office. So we're going to start throwing in some pictures here. So this is the old cabin that was the post office, and that is the little dirt road that you would drive down and stop at a little creek to get to her cemetery, her resting place. Okay, so here is a picture of her and her husband's resting area. It is in the woods along a grass path after you cross a creek. So like, this is like backwoods Kentucky stuff. It really, really is. I'm going to go a little deeper here. Now, she was born in Tennessee in Sullivan County. They're saying somewhere between 1770 and 1775. They're saying she's aged around the age of 70 when she passed away in 1846, but they don't know for sure. Now, I'm going to add her find-a-grave because the flowers that are left over for Moonglow are incredible. They're just like, this is my grandmother, 5th generation, 6th generation, 7th generation. These people are finding her and finding out that they are a descendant of her. Moonglow, her Christian name was given as Susanna Hamilton, was said to be a Native American descendant born about 1750 in Tennessee or North Carolina. They're not sure when and where she was born. Some have given her the surname of Hurst, but that has not been proven. So here are the list of her kids under the Hamilton name: John Hamilton, Sarah Elizabeth Hamilton, Nancy Hamilton, Mary Hamilton, Esther Hamilton, Elizabeth Hamilton, David Hamilton, Benjamin Hamilton, Amelia Hamilton, and Martha Hamilton. So, like I said, behind the post office, crossing a creek, down a little grass path, you will find her entire family plot. Now, there is legend to the little town of Moon, Kentucky, that is where her original birth parents are buried, is around where she decided to, have her burial place. So that's pretty interesting. So we're going to click to this. Okay. An excerpt from the Licking County Courier news article, 1999. Benjamin started a fur trapping venture with a man named Chandler. They were doing good at selling furs to traders from the East. Some Cherokees eventually felt that 2 white men were hurting their trade venues. So, yeah, they would have. I mean, the white people just hurt everything about this country. Republicans and all that did not exist back then, but it kind of makes you wonder if all the pillaging that these white men did when they came here, there's some kind of curse happening now, and we're just all doomed. Which I wouldn't blame them. Honestly, they should curse us. Benjamin and Chandler were taken captive and taken before a council of chiefs to be dealt with. So the usual punishment was to run the gauntlet, 2 parallel lines of brave stabbing and slashing of knives, so almost like a joust. If the captives survived this, they were then burnt at the stake, which there's no record of them doing that. Come on, history was made up by these rich white men. Benjamin and Chandler were sentenced to be burned at the right phase of the moon. The Indian girl, I don't like saying that, it's how it's written in this article. The indigenous girl, we're going to say, was assigned the task of providing food and water for these 2 men. Benjamin became friendly with her and gained her confidence. He promised to marry her if she helped him escape. She secured their freedom and was married to Benjamin. Her name was Moonglow, but she took after the Christian name of Susanna Hurst. There is family lore that an Aunt Shirley heard Moonglow's dad was the chief and gave them land at Tar Fork Wedding Gift, where they built a 12-room cabin. So there could be some truth behind to where Benjamin was held captive, you know, kind of like the Pocahontas story, but not so much romanticized, because these are all like family legends and stories that I have dug for 2 months. So, like I said, they don't know who her family is. They don't know, they can't really prove that she was a chief's daughter because there's no record. So, here is some interesting things that I have found that really ties this story together, okay? So, I hope you bared with me. She never claimed to be any kind of royalty like Mary Mortar of South Salem. Mary Mortar has a very small plot, not with her family, all alone in South Salem. Her house that her husband built is gone. But Moonglow has a whole town named after her in Kentucky. She has an entire family cemetery with just her and her family are buried. And her little mail post office in her town is like one of the last landmarks that are still there from when she lived there. I mean, everything's updated. It's still a town. It's Moon, Kentucky. But they have this little tiny old building that's now a tiny home. They fix it up. It's like a tiny home residence. But yeah, that right there. So here we go. This is the dirt that I digged up on that I'm so excited about. Hurst is not her name. Her name was Moonglow, daughter of Mohi Okaohona and Maggie Margaret Golden Hair Hastings. So when Moonglow was able to secure Benjamin's freedom from the Cherokee tribe, they're saying that's a fact, Tagwahi Cherokee Indian Village in Spring Creek, North Carolina, 1783. He took her to Kingsport, North Carolina, and it is there that the Hurst dry goods store, the childless owners, John and Annabelle Hurst, took Moonglow as their daughter. So, if she was born in either 1770 or 1775, and she was taken, for Benjamin's freedom in 1783. So that put her as a young teenager, maybe younger, So she was born in 1775. She was definitely younger than a teenager when this happened. So they're saying that she was taken to Spring Creek, North Carolina at the Hurst Dry Goods Store, John and Annabelle Hurst, which are listed as her parents. But there's this gap where they're not listed. John and Annabelle took Moonglow as their daughter, giving her the Christian name of Susanna Hurst. Learning that she was about 13 to 15 years of age, they insisted that her and Ben wait till she was 21 before being out as a married couple. That actually makes a lot of sense. So, what do you guys think? Like, for real. I think that it's kind of like the Pocahontas story. Benjamin came in to the tribe for trials, and he promised the chief's daughter a better life and not be harmed by, evil settlers. So, that makes total sense. That's where the John Hurst guy came in. he took them in and helped them be safe until she was old enough to be out as a married couple with this Benjamin guy. So that is my story of Moonglow. I'm not going to call her Susanna Hurst anymore. I mean, it seemed like she liked her life as, or maybe she just felt safer that way, being married to a white man because they came in and just destroyed everything that she knew as a young child. And who knows what happened to her real parents, if that chief was really her real father. I mean, so the chief Maho Ona Kona, I hope I'm pronouncing that, Ona Kona, Maho Ona Kona, that sounds right. He was born, from what they're saying from records, 1745 in Tennessee. He had at least one daughter. He was born in 1745 in Tennessee, and he had at least one daughter from Miss Margaret Hastings, and that child is Moonglow. I will provide his little family search thingy too. Miss Margaret was born in 1760. So again, she was a little bit younger than him. Also born in Tennessee. And very interesting. It's really interesting to see all these. But I distinctly remember reading a book in, I think it was 4th grade, about this girl that was kidnapped by Native Americans because she had blonde hair. And that kind of reminds me of Moonglow's mom, because the nickname that she has, which was Golden Hair Hastings. Margaret Elizabeth Maggie Golden Hair Hastings. So Golden Hair and Moonglow were mother and daughter, supposedly. But yeah, it's definitely interesting, and it does make me really frustrated and sad that this culture of amazing people, I'm sure, that were in tune with Mother Nature, and they kind of lived in harmony from what, I've been seeing from Ohio's perspective, with Ohio being that trade center where they all met and traded things. So yeah, it's really sad to see that history isn't there. And, you have at least Moonglow's descendants, her granddaughters, trying to piece together this puzzle. There is a book out there about Moonglow, but they're saying it's fiction. So I did not read the book. Everything that I found is through family searches and just the legends that are handed down through the family, because that seems to be the one way that they can keep that history alive, is by telling stories through generations. And I'm glad it made its way to my husband. I really am. So let me know what you guys think about the tale of two interesting women. Moonglow, definitely. I've been researching her story for about 2 months now, and I've had a lot of fun researching it because I find it very fascinating and interesting, and it makes me mourn for all these mothers and daughters out there. Let me know what you think in the comments. So let's get to our listener submitted story. And remember, if you have submitted a story and I have not read it yet, that's because I'm saving it for the Halloween listener story extravaganza. So look forward to that in about 100 days away. So here we go. This one's from Jennifer Wells. Okay. I was working as a nurse in the emergency room one night when a guy came in and just sat down. After a few minutes, I asked him if he needed to be seen, and he responded with, just came to warm up. It was about 10 p.m. and it was below 0 degrees, and it had been snowing for hours, so here was about 4 inches of snow that had already fallen. The guy stated that he was just walked from Columbus, Ohio, and was heading towards Cincinnati. We're in Lebanon, which is about 30 miles from Cincinnati and about an hour and 45 minutes away from Columbus. His shoes had holes in them. I got him some heated blankets and a pair of fuzzy hospital socks to put over his shocks, which I could see through his worn shoes. I then got him some hot coffee. He kept running back into the ER from the triage, and my charge nurse asked me what I was doing. I told her about the guy in the waiting room, and she responded with, "We aren't a soup kitchen." When I grabbed him some warm soup we had, she came out, looked at him, and then softened up and asked him if we could get him an Uber to Cincinnati. We all offered to pay. He declined. A little bit later, I looked up from the triage, some patients, and the guy was gone. We worried about him walking in the snow and got security involved to try to find him. He was nowhere in the building, and he was nowhere to be found outside, and absolutely no footprints in the snow anywhere outside. It had stopped snowing, so it was not like his footprints had been covered. No cars were anywhere and no tire prints. To this day, we still talk about it, and we believed it was an angel or were we being tested? What are your thoughts? Security even drove around everywhere outside. No footprints, no tire tracks anywhere. The building was small, just a freestanding ER, and he was nowhere in our building. Question about the video cameras, nobody was seen leaving. They did see him walking onto the property earlier, but did not catch him on camera leaving. My goodness, that is kind of spooky, because you would, being in Ohio, if you know Ohio and the snow, you would have seen some footprints leaving, and he would have been caught on camera leaving if you caught him coming in. That's a spooky story right there, folks. If you want your own spooky story read on this podcast, please send me an email right here, underthemoonparapod@gmail.com, and I will read your story on this show. Well, that about does it. This is the last episode that you will see in this studio. Mama's getting herself her own podcast studio, so it's going to get real nice up in here, okay? So thanks for listening. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with someone that likes all things that are spooky. And until next time, my friends, hug your babies, love each other, and stay spooky, and fight the power.